Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy. The following content may involve explicit language and materials, so listener discretion is advised. Hey everyone, here with me today I have Eric from Unseen Paranormal Podcast. For those Patreon subscribers that are going to be at the tier, you can see us. For those of you who are just listening, you should sign up so you can see us. So I usually don't do a big introduction. I do want to warn you. But that being said, let's go ahead and I want to give you an opportunity, Eric, to explain to the listeners kind of a little bit about your background, what you do, a little about your podcast and things that you handle over there.
Yeah, I've been a paranormal investigator researcher for over 20 years, since I was a teenager, long before the Ghost Hunters and all those shows came on. When I started as a teenager, I didn't even know there was a such thing as ghost hunting. Me and my friends just went out to, local places like you did in high school and cemeteries and things like that. Yep. But I started the Unseen Paranormal Podcast in 2020 after I got some experience producing a friend's podcast that had nothing to do with paranormal. And so I kind of learned the podcast world doing that. And then she ended her podcast after a couple of years and kind of pushed me to do my own. And since I was interested in the paranormal and done the paranormal pretty much my whole life, I started the Unseen Paranormal Podcast, and it's just kind of taken off. And we're in season 4 now, have over 140 episodes. And,
holy cow.
Yeah, each week I have a different guest on, and we talk about everything from aliens to cryptids to ghosts. I talk a lot about ghosts and hauntings because that's kind of my forte. Yeah, and the show's doing pretty well. So, and I just started another podcast called Strange Chapters because before we started recording, you commented on my voice. I get a lot of people commenting on my voice.
It's
so,
very
yeah. So I started another show called Strange Chapters where I partner up with an author every week and I narrate 3 of their stories. And it's all nonfiction, so it's true crime, missing persons, cryptid tales, paranormal, anything weird and strange. So Strange Chapters. And that's got 9 episodes so far. So,
well, I think that is a very good pairing for you.
Yeah.
Probably fit right into that, no problems. And I love how the topics on your podcast are pretty much identical to mine for the most part. And I've noticed as I've been having episodes and having guests on and everything, I actually type up. So I'm kind of in the middle. So I have guest people that bring their encounters and experiences to the table. Some, like I just actually recorded last Saturday with a woman. Oh my gosh. A name popped in my head and I know it's not her name. She's going to kill me. But it's Spirit Crew, South Australia. I can remember titles. I can't remember anybody's name to save my life. I am so sorry, but she's super sweet. But I got to ask her questions about her investigations and what she uses and that kind of thing. But I also do research on particular topics, and I like to bring people in and they're blind, right? So they have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'll bring either a UFO encounter or my favorite of the cryptids, of course, hands down. And that I do have some haunted places and that kind of stuff. And I like to, tell the story and then give this person an opportunity to give their viewpoint, their opinions, just kind of shoot the shit a little bit. I really want to stick to the facts, get the facts out there, but I also like to have a good time. I hope I don't offend anybody. If I do, sorry, not sorry, but don't listen, I guess. Every now and then I like to kind of, keep it light and joke a little bit about certain things. So there's some stuff there. But when I was reading your thing, I was like, ooh, do I cover something? And then when you had mentioned that, you were an investigator for 20 years, I was like,
yeah.
Story. I want detail. One thing I want to go ahead and ask first is, was there anything in particular that kind of got you started? I mean, aside from you went in and all I could think of are like the hoodlums around town. I'm from a small town. So I just think of like hoodlums and they're like breaking and entering and, smoking in the cemetery. And although our cemetery is like on lockdown, so it's really weird for such a small town. There's fences and gates and there's curfews. I'm like, dude, these people don't care.
Yeah.
They've been
Yeah.
Man, they ain't going anywhere. But whatever, respect the dead. I'm waiting for something to like smack me from the side or something. But aside from just going in and kind of just dabbling in that a little bit as far as scenario goes, was there an actual encounter or event maybe that kind of got you wanting to make it more of a investigatory role?
Yeah, when I was 8 years old, I had my first paranormal experience, and I woke up out of a dead sleep and sat up in the bed and looked at my doorway, and there was a glowing figure of a woman standing in the doorway. And
Oh,
my parents bought this house in the 70s. I was raised by my grandparents, so when I say my parents, it's my grandparents, but they
yeah.
bought the house brand new in the 70s, and nobody had ever died in the house, but I don't know about the land. I jumped up, it scared the shit out of me, so I jumped up, slammed the door, shut, turned the light on, and didn't kind of sleep the rest of the night. And that started getting me curious, and it kind of snowballed from there. I may have had experiences before then, just too young to
Yeah.
really remember, but that one really sticks with me. And then what kind of really, I was always the weird kid too, who went in the book fair
Same.
looking for, yeah, I had alien posters, the black light alien posters and things on the walls. And so I was always going to the, book fair at school looking for the ghost books and, the scary goosebumps and things like that.
Those were the
Whether
best.
those, yeah, whether those stories were true or not, I wanted to,
Yeah.
learn about ghosts and stuff. And so when I was 14, my grandfather died. And that kind of is what thrust me into wanting to investigate, to figure out what
It
happens.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And me and my mom, my grandmother started having experiences around the house, interesting experiences that kind of pointed towards it was my dad, my grandfather. And so the TV would turn itself on and off and things like that to get our attention. And then out in the garage is attached to our house. We would hear like tools clanking around at night. And it's just me and my mom here and the dogs.
Were they
And
just like moving around? Because
yeah,
I'd be concerned if
like,
there's like saws running and I wasn't there.
no, it's just like metal tools. You'd hear like
Okay.
metal tools clanking,
Yeah. Okay.
like, metal wrenches or something clanking. It's kind of what it sounds like. You go out there, there's nobody in the garage and things like that. And so we would see shadows every once in a while. And that kind of only kicked off once my father passed away. So that kind of got me into talking to other people about paranormal experiences, a bunch of my friends. And we were getting to the, ages where some of my friends were driving and things like that. So one of the things that you kind of did in high school around here where I live in a small town outside of Nashville, Tennessee. So one of the things you did was sneak into this old plantation in Franklin, Tennessee, when in high school. So if you're at Fairview, Franklin, or Brentwood, which is kind of outskirts of Nashville,
Mhm.
you would sneak onto these grounds looking for ghosts, and nobody ever. It was actually, it still is a working historic site. So they
Oh,
would
wow.
do tours and stuff during the day, but at night they really didn't have any security or anything, and people you just go up there and walk around. Nobody ever, it wasn't
Didn't
like people were spray painting or,
inventory or anything.
yeah, and you couldn't go in the house. They had motion sensors and things like that. You
Yeah.
couldn't go in the house, but you could walk around the grounds. And the Battle of Franklin was considered the 5 bloodiest hours of the Civil War. There's like 10,000 people died in 5 hours. Yeah, so crazy fucking battle. And the house was used, and you hear this a lot, but this house really was used as a Civil War hospital.
Mhm.
They had wounded soldiers in every nook and cranny
Well,
of this
especially with
house.
being a plantation that's kind of
Yeah,
outside, a little bit, it'd be, prime real estate to get your people out of the main battle area
yeah,
and get them
yeah,
secluded. And with it, I'm assuming, plantations, and they're pretty big, with lots of
yeah,
rooms typically. So that it'd be a really good place to have a hospital. Not ideal for the people that ended up there, but
yeah. And there's still ginormous bloodstains in the floors.
oh,
There are lots
ugh.
of places that say they have bloodstains here and there, but these bloodstains are, I mean, they're huge. And one of the bloodstains upstairs, they did all the amputations upstairs in the south facing room.
You're reading my okay. We are connected because I would like to point out that a minute ago we said exactly the same thing at exactly the same time, and I literally in my head just had this picture of like a leg being amputated, and then you
Yeah.
literally amputate. I was like, what? Okay, we are connected today, man. It is high.
Yeah, so they did it in a south facing window because that would give them the most light
Mhm.
throughout the day. And one of the in one of the journals for one of the soldiers, they said that the limbs, they cut so many limbs off that they stacked to that second story window. And so there's these
Oh,
huge blood stains, and the surgeon, had a table in front of that window, if you want to call them surgeons back then.
yeah.
And you can see where the surgeon had a rubber apron on. There's a U shape where there's no blood behind it. but in front of it's this huge, like 5-foot area of blood.
Oh,
And then there's also a perfect circle on the floor where they had like a water bucket and no blood got under the bucket. So there's a perfect circle where they would just rinse their rags and stuff off, when they got too bloody. So this place has a crazy history. And it was one of the founding families in Nashville that owned it, the McGavics, and it's called Carton Plantation. But you can still go there and tour now. They've completely restored the place, and they have a lot more security up there now. You can sneak on the grounds now. And I don't condone trespassing. But also another unique thing about this particular plantation, the Confederate soldiers were kind of just buried wherever they died.
yeah.
Well, about a year after the battle, you've got arms sticking out of the ground, and the smell is foul because all these.
Deep enough?
No, just very shallow graves.
Okay.
So the townspeople had enough of it, and the town didn't have any money to pay for it. So the McGavics, being rich, they actually paid a doctor and 2 assistants a lot of money, like $5 a body, which was a lot of money back in the 1800s.
Wow. Yeah.
And they dug up, I want to say it's 2,500 Confederate soldiers, and they buried them in a 2-acre plot right next to the plantation house. So about 50 yards from the plantation house on the plantation property. And if they had any identifying things on them, because, they didn't wear dog tags back then.
Yeah.
So if they had like a letter that said their name, then their name is in this cemetery book that Miss McGavick kept. And she was the lady of the house when the battle happened and all that. And she's the one that paid them to put these bodies. And so otherwise, they're just buried by state that they were from. And then if they knew what regiment or whatever, they're buried by regiment. So you can still go there and visit, and they have a copy of the cemetery book that will tell you if a soldier's name is there, and some of the people names that they knew, they contacted the families came and got the bodies if they had the money and took them wherever. But yeah, there's still like 2,000 soldiers buried there.
So they went from one completely unmarked grave to another deeper unmarked grave, kind of.
Yeah.
And
pretty much.
You just hoped like hell that there was something that told them who you were?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Hopefully you had letters from family or something, or, something on you, a journal or something that had your name on it.
How did they know they got them all?
They got the ones that they knew, I mean, I think a lot of them had like crude crosses, out of wood or whatever, marking the burials. And like I said, a lot of them, the bones were kind of sticking out of the ground in people's front yards and things, because the Battle of Franklin happened in downtown Franklin. And so it happened on people's front lawns. And so, yeah, crazy place. I saw and experienced lots of things up there. One of the things, and I believe it was Miss McGavick, but I saw a lady one time pull the curtains back and poke her head in the window and look out at us. And looked like a solid person, but nobody lives in the house. And this is like 3 or 4 in the morning. And, the house was locked up tight. It's a historic place. But you hear like cannon fire, gunshots, and this is in the middle of a modern town. And Franklin Brentwood area is where all the country stars live. So it's pretty affluent. It's not, so the gunshots and, things is not something you hear. So
that's just, to me, that blows my mind. Like to have, I can't even imagine all of the energy that place probably has. And you're never going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Can't even fathom that many bodies. I can't picture it in my head, that many bodies. Like and when they reburied them, did they do it like plague style where they just kind of heave hoed?
No, they're in individual graves.
Like actually bury individual graves for the people.
They're individual, and all the soldiers are Confederate because the federal troops, the Union Army had enough money to take their dead with them and send them back home to wherever they were from to be buried. So it's all Confederate troops.
So they just were like, I don't really know how to put it nicely. They were the ones that like nobody gave a shit about, basically, right? It was just like
the Union didn't care. I mean, they just wanted to crush the Confederates. And so one of the reports in downtown Franklin, there was a family called the Lotes family. In this house, you can go actually investigate. Carton Plantation can investigate.
What did you say the name was?
The Lotes house. Lotz. Lotz. Yeah.
Okay. I've heard of a name similar, but it's not that one.
Well, people call it Lutz or Lots, but it's Lotes.
My brain was like, that sounds familiar, but okay.
Carton Plantation, you can't investigate. They don't allow investigators, and they never have. And the Franklin Battlefield Trust owns it now. The director has instructed the tour guides that if they even say anything, if you go in there and ask them about the hauntings, if they tell you anything that's ever happened to them, they're supposed to deny that anything paranormal happens. And if they get caught telling you any ghost stories, they'll get fired. That's what he's told them.
Holy crap! They're like the government and UFOs.
Yeah, they just want the history. That's all that director wants. He's a historian, and that's all he wants at Carton. Even though they can make so much money, by just letting teams come and do the grounds, not even the house.
I get it from a respect standpoint. The last thing you want is Zach Baggins in there fucking everything up.
Right. So, douche Baggins. Yeah,
I can understand them wanting to do it. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you're not allowed to like video your visit or take photos. I would guess that would be okay.
Not inside the house. On the grounds, outside, all the pictures you want, all the video you want, but inside the house, that's a big no-no.
Okay. I'm still really stuck on something. I've got to take it to the beginning. When you were 8 and you said you saw the woman in your room?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got some questions. Let's see here. Do you remember what ethnicity she was? Was she just like a regular white lady, or was she more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like it's not domesticated. It's oh my gosh. Was she more indigenous? Was she maybe African American looking?
She probably would have been Caucasian. I mean, the figure was glowing white, like putting off its own white light. So, and I got up pretty quickly and slammed the door and turned the light on. But from what I remember, it probably would be Caucasian lady with the features.
Was there anything? I know these are probably really hard questions, especially with you being only 8. Was there anything going on like in your life personally around that time? Maybe any losses or big changes? You said your grandparents raised you.
Yeah.
Did you move with them prior to this or around this time?
They raised me my entire life from the time I was 2 weeks old. So until they passed away. So I dealt with them being sick off and on, even as a kid, with health issues and things like that because they were older.
Yeah.
So I don't remember specifically when that happened. If there was something going on, nothing stands out. Do you know what I'm saying?
Nothing. Okay. Yeah. You don't have to answer this next question. It is strictly trying to troubleshoot. Were you aware of where your birth parents were, particularly your mother?
I met her 4 times my entire life.
But she was still alive at this time.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering if that would have been really creepy if she, had passed or something and showed up. Because one of the experiences that I have had, I made some very poor decisions that night because I was not in a good place. However, while I was unconscious, I went to this place and I don't know what it was. I don't know. I don't know if I would say it's like heaven. It was weird. So it was just this big field and everything was like perfect and everything was bright, but there was no sun. It was really weird. But what got me was what I was wearing. I was wearing this white shirt. And when I would look down, the shirt, it's like it was so white and bright that it was like radiating.
Yeah.
But when you said there was that woman and she was glowing, it just put that in my mind where, something about those clothes that I was wearing. And most of the stuff I've seen, no one's ever glowing. So I was wondering if maybe it was less like a person ghost, I guess. Maybe more of an angelic type spirit or something, maybe.
Yeah. This, I don't, that's been, I'm fixing to turn 41. So that's been a long, long time ago. So what I remember is it was just a woman and the glowing, and I jumped out of the bed, like I said, and slammed the door and turned the light on. That's
only 8, heaven forbid.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know what I would have done if I was 8 and saw some lady in my closet or whatever.
well, later on, I would figure out that I'm actually an empath. So I bring things
Uh-huh.
in. Yeah. And
Love it.
so it took me a long time to figure that out and figure
Mhm.
out that because I didn't have anybody tell me what the hell was going on with the empath stuff. And me and my
Uh,
mom had an insane connection. Me and my grandmother had an insane
yeah.
connection where I would come home from school and she would tell me things I was excited about before I could even tell her. And there was no way that she would know,
Mhm.
things like that. And we just kind of, I have that with my husband now. We're so connected. It's ridiculous. We could sit and not talk for 20, 30 minutes and then I will say something or he'll say something that's exactly what
Yeah.
Dustin was thinking.
I
And
me
so,
and my husband do so we do this all the time. Or I'll be thinking about something like, man, like what sounds really good? I want some Casey's donuts. Like I really want some Casey's donuts. I never call him, I never say anything. And
yeah.
then he'll show up and he's like, stop today for Casey's donuts. And I'm like, you do that. He does it all the time. Or he'll go to the store and I'll make him a list and he'll go. And then I'm like, oh shit, I forgot blah blah blah.
yeah.
And then he walks in and I'm like putting the stuff because I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to be like, you didn't tell me,
Yeah.
But when I pull it out and it's right there, I'm like, how much you know? He goes, I don't know. I just had this weird feeling that we needed it. And I was like, oh, yes. But it is very difficult. I feel like sometimes to get, or I guess find someone who understands that and
Yeah.
how it works. I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't know. Can't tell you what I am. I don't know what I am. I know that I can do some really creepy shit,
Yeah.
like real creepy, but I have no idea. I can't control it. I don't know when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. It just happens.
Yeah.
A lot of it is when I'm dreaming. That tends to be a very popular time to send me messages, I guess.
Yeah.
uh, but I mean, I've had people. I had a friend, a friend this actually just happened a few weeks ago, and I usually I'm really warm all the time. It's like my body just radiates heat. It's crazy, and I assume it's just all the extra energy that I have, and it
Yeah.
just I don't know what it is, but all of a sudden I'm like freezing. I mean, I am actually have pants on and I have like a hoodie on, I've got a blanket on, and I am fucking cold. I'm like, what the hell is happening to me? And I sent my friend a message and I was like, dude, I'm like, what's going on? I was like, I'm freezing. And he was like, wait, what did you just say? I was like, I'm freezing. I was like, what the hell's going on? He's like, I just spent an hour at work in the walk-in freezer. And I was like, oh, like,
Yeah.
thanks for that. But it's and what's weird to me is, so I mean, there's that stuff, and when you walk in a room, I don't know if you're like me, I
Yeah.
don't like going out, especially if there's a lot of people, because it is very overwhelming, and especially because I can't tell where it's coming from.
Yeah.
I'll feel something, but I don't know who. It just is very uncomfortable and it just is awkward. But for whatever reason, there's certain people where it is like 100 times worse. I mean, it is like
Yeah.
I can read their mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's people that I'm more open to. Yeah, I have certain friends that it's a lot stronger with. Me and my husband been together 18 years,
Oh,
and yeah, a long time. And at first, he thought I was crazy when I started revealing all this. Yeah, and so until he saw it in practice,
yeah.
and now he's just like, yeah, that thing that we do. And he still doesn't. He doesn't give a shit about the paranormal. He doesn't want to investigate none of that.
Dude,
Yeah.
you're preaching to the choir. He calls it hocus pocus and doesn't believe any of it's real. Even whenever I sicked the ghost on him and they gave him evidence. Literally, like one day I was so, because so much weird stuff happens to me all the time. And I don't do anything. It just kind of happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I've decided that they know who can and cannot see them or who can and cannot hear them.
Yeah.
And I think they really just double down on those people, I think is what happens. But they were really pestering me. And I think some of them are my kids. So I was like, I didn't know which one it was. I just talked to all of them. I'm like, all right, I literally threw my hands up. I was in the kitchen and I was like, okay. I'm like, I know you're here. I know you're here. I've seen you. I've heard you. I have
Yeah.
seen you moving stuff around. I know you are here. He's the one that doesn't believe me.
Yeah.
Bug him. Just bug him. I shit you not. The next day, I get a phone call at work and he's like, what the hell? I'm like, what? And he's like, you just brewed a cup of coffee all over the counter and just left it for me to clean up? I'm like, what are you talking about? So we had a Keurig machine on the counter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, it looks like you brewed a whole cup of coffee and it's all over the counter, the floor, the countertop, all over the Keurig. He goes, it's everywhere. And he's like, you couldn't just clean it up? I was like, babe, I have not used the Keurig in a month. So something, and we all know how Keurigs work. So something had to have turned the Keurig on.
Yeah.
Open the lid, close the lid, and select a button. Apparently the largest cup of coffee that motherfucker could make.
Right.
I was already gone. I wasn't even in the house. And so he chalked it up as, oh, electrical glitch, right? The next day, motherfucker calls me again. I'm at work and I'm like, what? Like, what's going on? And you could hear his voice. Like, he was like, oh my God. He's like, the treadmill just turned itself on. I was like, excuse me? So I had a treadmill. We have an enclosed porch on the front, and my treadmill was out there. And I have used it all the time, never had any issues with it. I mean, it's older, but it worked fine. It did what it needed to do. And that was it. So this is the best part. So he walks out of my house, walks to the porch door to go get the mail. He doorknob and pushes the door open, does not even make it out of the door. Speak of the devil, he's calling me. And the treadmill turns on. I can hear it running on the phone. And he's like, how do I turn it off? I'm like, okay, go to the treadmill. And he's like, okay. I'm like, there's a knob. Slide it to the right, it goes fast. Slide it all the way to the left, and it'll turn it off. He goes, it is all the way left. Like, and I get the I'm like, okay, pull the safety switch. You know, the clip on, keep you safe. Yeah. I'm like, just pull the safety switch. It should kill it. And I hear the safety switch come out, and the treadmill's still going. And I'm like, he goes, that didn't work either. I was like, okay. I'm like, unplug it. Just unplug it from the wall. And I hear him tugging, and the treadmill stops. And he goes, oh, thank God, because if that didn't work, we were going to have to fucking move. It's like, oh, that wasn't a ghost. He goes, that was just an electrical short. I'm like, that turned it off? I was like, you would assume a short would turn it off? But he was like, oh, yeah, it's just, it's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing. And the thing is I have a Ring doorbell.
Yeah.
So all of it was on film. So I downloaded it. I sent it to people. I saved it to my OneDrive. And fast forward 6 months when I'm doing this podcast, and I'm like, oh, that'd be perfect. I've got evidence. It's no longer in my OneDrive. It's not on my computer. It's not in any of my message history. And it's not on the Ring doorbell. It's all gone.
Wow.
So whatever it was, did not want to get gone. So
yeah.
But and he still just doesn't believe me. And okay, so I've got to ask. Okay, so I'm trying to think. So empath is primarily just the kind of picking up on emotions. What all does that entail?
I'm kind of
figure out if that's maybe what's wrong with me. Well, maybe not what's wrong, but what's weird.
I call myself an empath, even though I have lots of things happen, like precognition and dreams and all kind of crazy shit. But kind of like you were talking about, but I just settled on the term empath because I tend to be really, really good with living people's energy. So I can read somebody really, really well, just in their presence. And I know within about 30 seconds whether I like somebody or not.
Oh, I don't even, I say 30 seconds max for me. I usually wake up, and the moment I am within like hand reaching, I'm like, nope. I'm like,
it's like two repelling magnets. Yeah, it's crazy.
And then I'm like, nope, get him out of here. I'm like,
and so when I was younger, I taught myself. I was really shy when I was young until I got into high school, and I decided, all right, fuck this. Like, I'm not going to be a shy kid anymore, And so I started teaching myself how to deal with the empath shit, like with the energy of feeling other people's emotions and things like that.
Yeah.
And I started doing the exercises where I would go to the mall and I would sit
Oh, that is the
with
worst.
sunglasses on. I would sit with
Oh,
sunglasses on and I would sit so I didn't look like a weirdo with my eyes closed,
yeah.
And I would close my eyes and I would just feel people's energy pass me. And
Oh,
I finally learned how to just recognize, okay, that's not mine. And sometimes I still do. Like the other night, we were driving to Walmart and it was around 5 o'clock. So it was, heavy traffic, rush hour. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we passed that's a whole line of cars going beside us. So I don't know who it was.
yeah.
But all of a sudden, I'm driving and I feel like I'm about to cry. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not one of those people. Like, I don't cry. That's just not my thing. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck did that come from? And so, I took a big deep breath and like, that's not my emotion. Cause it was like me and my husband and our roommate, and like, we're joking and laughing so I've just learned to let it go. But I'm a big crowd person. Like I'm an extrovert. So I love crowds and
Horrible.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm the social one in our group, and I've always been very, very social, and I always like love to meet new people, and I've always been like that. But so up until my surgery incident, I could manage that.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me as much. Like it was kind of, but I was like, oh yeah, I just thought it was just some weird tick I had and whatever. But then after my surgery debacle, I mean, a whole other can of worms opened. And I mean, stuff started getting completely unreal. It was totally bananas. And so now, and I wasn't really responsible with it at first, not gonna lie. I was really good at getting what I wanted
Yeah.
because I knew what they wanted.
Yeah.
And I would have made one hell of a con man, just saying. But everybody calls me the human lie detector.
Yeah.
Because I could just be like you're bullshitting me. Like I don't even I was like, I could feel it. And men are, no offense, men are dirt bags. And I would always be like, I'm like, you fucked up. And they're like, no, I didn't. I'm like, you're lying to me. You fucked up. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I can't like, how would you even know? I'm like, I can't explain. I'm like, I can feel it. It's on you like a horrible stench.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's all over you. And I was like, I can't explain it. I just know. And they busted him every time. They hated it.
With me, with my friends, they've always called me Dr. Phil because everybody wants to tell me their problems. And they're like, why do I just want to tell you my shit? And I'm like, well, it's just the empath shit.
Okay, so that explains a lot because I've always been the one. I mean, anybody, like every job, like I had one job with this guy was total clamshell, right? He shared an office with a woman, and he had like a partition in between them. And she said for years, this man hid behind that partition, would not say a word to her, to anyone else, never came out, never voiced his opinion, never gave ideas. He would go to meetings with his head down. And then the only time you ever caught him was like if you caught him on his way to the coffee machine and back. Yeah. And started working there. And I worked there for about 5 years. And by the time I left, she pulled me aside. She's like, I don't know what you did to him, but thank you. Because he needed that. He needed his role required for him to grow in his role and move on to better things. He needed that. Right. But I also could pick up that I was like, homeboy had really bad anxiety.
Yeah.
And to the point where he's really one of those guys that, don't touch me, stay over there, because he just panics. And I explained to him one day, I'm like, so I call it siphoning. I call it my superpower. And he was having a panic attack while we were at lunch. And I was like, this is gonna sound weird. I said, I just need to touch you. I said, it could just be your forearm, your hand, whatever you're comfortable with. I said, but please just let me help you. I'm like, because you are making me very uncomfortable and I can take that from you and I'll have it for a little bit, but it'll go away for me and you'll be better.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand what I was saying, but he was like, okay, like, here's my arm. Like, he was really confused. And, I just, sit there, and I just sit and I could feel, you can like breathe it in almost. I don't know how to explain it. I figured you know what I'm talking about. But, I'd like breathe it in and like I'd push mine to him and then I'd, breathe his in and then push mine to him or like cycle it through and then give it back. And instantly, I mean, you could see his whole demeanor just change. And he was like, I don't know what that was. He's like, but I haven't felt this calm in a long time. And the moment I was like, I'm glad. And then he started noticing that my face started to get real red. My neck was breaking out. I was like, I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking because I was just getting everything that he had. Right. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm like, it'll go away. I'm like, it'll go away. It's just temporary. I'm like, it's fine. I don't mind at all. But I had to do that a couple times for him. But I was able to be like, hey, like I have mental health issues. And because I am so open and everybody, like you said, likes to kind of tell us everything about them. I was able to give him the resources he needed to get his anxiety under control. And he's like, I would have never, ever said that to anyone. He goes, I don't know what it is. And I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like that for us, it's normal.
Actually,
they're like, why did I tell you this stuff? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't either. People just, it's like they vomit out their shit.
You're like,
they're
their whole life story. And he just met them. It's like,
I actually went into a career for 20 years that actually worked to my benefit. I worked in emergency medicine for the last 15 years of my medical career. So I worked on the ambulance. I was a medic on the ambulance in the ER, and it served me very, very well being an empath, just instinctively knowing what my patients needed. And of course, we're very well trained as well. But now I'm retired from the medical field. I do the podcast full time. I do the paranormal full time. But I
would love to be in that position.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice. It's nice to get paid to do the podcast. It's amazing.
Sorry, my dog's apparently making the entire carpet over here smell like him, which requires scratching up the carpet and snorting like a pig. Thank you.
But yeah, I ended up with one of the reasons I got out because my body is just worn out. My back, my knees, my shoulders, from lifting people over and over for so many years.
Yeah.
But also I ended up with PTSD. And so I've dealt with that over the past 2 or 3 years since I've been out in the medical field. But it's just one of those things of like over 20 years of medicine, all the crazy shit that I dealt with, especially 15 years in emergency medicine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's kind of insane. You probably saw people like me, like worse than me. I was bleeding internally. You probably saw bleeding externally.
Yeah, saw a lot of crazy shit that people aren't made to see. And then you think you dealt with it, but then you really don't because you go back to work and do your job. Like it never happened. And so you kind of push it down. And then your brain has this way of coming and kicking you square in the ass with it and saying, oh, you have PTSD now. Now you're going to fucking deal with it whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And so that's where I've been the past few years, but I got a pretty good handle on it.
Awesome though. I mean, that kind of work, I mean, it takes, I think it takes a special kind of person. I struggle because on one hand, I do have that ability to kind of feel what other people feel and all of that. But I also suffer from borderline personality disorder. So I can feel it, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, sometimes like, I know, like, I'm like, I should like, they're there. I'm like, I don't like, what do I do? Cause I don't like emotions. I shove them suckers deep and I put it. And then I get everybody else's and I'm like, But you said that you get stuff from dreams too?
Yeah. Sometimes precognitive dreams, it happens a lot, where yeah, I'll do something in a dream and then it comes true into life, like the exact scene or whatever. And it's not even bad stuff. It's usually good stuff. Yeah. And then also I've been visited by my mom has visited me, my grandmother, and two of my aunts that have passed away have visited me in dreams to let me know they're okay.
So that is so awesome. I am so glad that I found you. This is a lot of like seriously, this is a lot of the stuff that I've been dealing with for
Yeah.
I don't even know how long. And I kept saying, I'm like, I want to find somebody that like understands. Because it's like
Yeah.
nobody gets it. I was like, and then if I talk to people about it, then I sound really weird,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh God. Well, and then, I have mental health issues. So then everybody just is like, oh, like she's just extra crazy, right? Like it can't
Right.
be
Right.
anything else. It's just she's fucking nuts, which I'm medicated, so I'm no longer that nuts.
Right.
But like mine are they typically deal with birth and death. So I can tell you, well, and like I said, I don't know who or when or whatever. But I think I'm up to baby number 11 where I have called someone and been like, hey, you're pregnant, it's a girl.
Yeah.
And what are you talking about? I'm like, you're pregnant and it's a girl. And I have been right every single fucking time. Every single time. And some it'll be, and it's always these things I don't like. It's either been I have been in a dream where in the dream I am a person, typically a person that I am aware of or I know, but maybe not know personally. So
Yeah.
it's been family members. So obviously there's a connection there. But one of them was my husband's stepdad that I never met. I just knew his name.
Yeah.
Some of them it's been 4 or 5 days. No one ever makes it past 5 days, and it's really bizarre to me because like I said, I don't know. I always know if in the dream I know whether or not it's one that's going to happen,
Yeah.
but I can't control it
Yeah.
or anything like that, and I never quite understood it. I've been visited by my grandma, my grandpa. Actually, my grandpa just came and saw me yesterday, day before yesterday. And what's weird was I have a headband that I always wear. It's got speakers in it and a little dongle thingy was kind of giving me fits and it wasn't charging right, but I just kept forcing it in anyway because it was my favorite headband. And I went to sleep and next thing I know, he's standing there with my headband. And he told me, he's like, you need to get rid of this. I was like, what? He goes, it's not safe. I was like, what do you mean it's not safe? I was like, I did charge it. He goes, your house is going to catch on fire if you do not throw this away. You need to get rid of it when you wake up. And I'm like, okay. I got up and that some bitch was in the trash.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not doing that. But you have that stuff. And you said you've seen like the woman peeking out from the curtains, and then you saw the
Yeah.
woman in your bedroom. Have you seen a lot of physical, I guess, apparitions?
Yeah, not full on. It's typically, and I think this because I don't want to see them full on,
Yeah.
but it's typically out of my peripheral vision. And I
Mhm.
can sit and like stare at you and watch them out of my peripheral.
In the
And as long
moment.
as I don't, yeah, the moment I
Mhm.
turn, they're gone. But even my husband, we have a resident ghost here in the house, and that
I love it.
I
You call it
brought.
the resident ghost.
Yeah, I brought him home a long time ago before I knew what I was doing, and he followed me home for whatever reason. But he does weird shit. The other night we have our kitchen faucet is a motion sensor,
Yeah.
and so you just wave your hand in front of it, turn it off, your hands are dirty, whatever. We're sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden the faucet comes on. It's never done it before, and then it comes on, and my husband's like, "Use the TV." He's like, "Yeah, the faucet's on." I'm like, "Yep." So we got up and turned it off, and then shit like that happens all the time. Knocking on the walls whenever he wants to really get our attention. He'll knock on the walls.
I think my husband's home.
um, so we have all kinds of
You
different
hear the
activity.
knocks. Is there a certain number of knocks you hear? Because in my house, there's a certain number of knocks.
It's usually three, and then it'll be a pause. Yeah, and then it'll be three more.
people out. So I've had a lot of people that are like, "Oh my gosh, it's 3 knocks, like that's demonic or whatever." I'm like,
No.
"No, it's like motherfucker just," and it was like right by my head. And my house is brick,
Yeah.
and so I was, inside, and I was getting ready, and it knocked like right by my face, and there's nothing there. The other side of the wall is just brick and a drop. I
Right.
mean, there's no stairs, there's no nothing. And even if they did knock on the brick, it would not sound like they were knocking on my wall from, the
Yeah.
inside.
Well, the first time he ever did it, our resident spirit ever did it, it was actually the wall separating our bedroom from our guest room, and there's no plumbing in that wall. We don't have mice or rats or anything like that. And I automatically got up and went into that room to see what the hell's going on. Is there some animal going to got my house or something that's knocking on the wall? And there's nothing. There was no explanation. Huh?
I think we have bees.
Yeah, but I don't know that wouldn't. I don't see how they'd be knocking in your wall. You might hear like a buzzing or vibrating.
Imagine a bee that big.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I would die. Oh, I would totally crap my
So
pants.
the second time it happened, I had told Roger about it, and the second time it happened, he was actually awake and heard it too. We were watching TV before we went to sleep, and I muted the TV. I'm like, "You hear that shit?" He's like, "Yeah, that sounds like somebody knocking on the wall."
Oh.
And I said, "That's what I've been hearing." And so now he's experienced it a few times. And then now, the longer we've been together, the more he experiences shit. And now he believes in it.
Oh, God, I hope mine does eventually.
And so he still doesn't want anything to do with it. But every once in a while, he gets up. He leaves for work at 6 a.m, so he's up at 4:45. And he'll be in our bathroom, and he'll be like, "Yeah, I saw that fucker, behind me in the mirror this morning."
Oh,
and that's the one rule. That's the one rule that we have. That's one of the ground rules we've had is like, don't fucking pop up behind me in the mirror. Like, we're not doing this jump scare horror movie shit.
Yeah,
I just show yourself full on, but I've seen him in the mirror a few times, but it's more of like one of those things of like, oh shit, I'm caught doing something I'm not supposed to do. And then he's, really fastly gone. But,
that a lot. We call her Gertrude. Have you named yours?
I think his name is Robert. I think that's his real name is Robert. He's a Civil War soldier or was.
I've got the old lady, the kids, and some creeper that's like about 30. I don't know who he is, but I know what he looks like, and he really likes to grab my leg. He's not very fun.
Yeah. We had to have a kind of Jesus meeting with Robert because he would wake us up about 2 or 3 in the morning shaking our bed.
Dick.
And I'm like, what? At first it was scary. And it's just like, come on,
but
it's like, and I always describe it when I tell people those old motel beds you put a quarter in and the whole bed would shake.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be massaging, but the whole bed shakes. That's how this was. And it would wake both of us up.
Oh my gosh, that sucks.
Yeah. And so it happened quite a few times. And finally we were like, look, I don't give a shit what you want. I don't know how to help you. You're just, we can cohabitate. And if you want to continue the shit, then we'll find a way to get rid of you, and he's
straight up.
Yeah, he's good now. He opens doors and shit, and he mills around the house all the time. And we're like, okay, whatever. It's not. It doesn't scare anybody. Our roommate, it doesn't scare him.
Have you ever like saged the house?
Oh yeah, I sage all the time.
And he stays.
Yeah, I don't really sage I sage to like clear the energy because the energy kind of gets built up in your house, especially when you have people over. And
like I have a rule, like as long as you're not here maliciously or anything, I don't. It is what it is. But if you're gonna be like a creeper or you're up to no good, then you gotta GTFO.
Yeah, my intention when I sage is always just get rid of the energy buildup and any negative energy. I've never directed it towards him to like go on somewhere. Like, you can move on whenever you want. You're not stuck. Like, that's your choice. And so then I also, some of my friends' houses I sage for them too.
He turned the light on it. I'm like, I look like a freaking ghost. Like, you look all tan. And I'm like, I literally look dead. Look at this crap.
I'm Native American too. So.
Other than this stuff, I have no actual. I'm just that pasty.
I stay this dark year round. This is my natural. I'm Native American, so.
Well, I just tell everybody that I'm part vampire. That tends to work. So you kind of catch them in like the mirror and stuff. Do you ever hear like voices in general, even like investigating and stuff?
Yes, I've heard lots of. I've investigated so many different places over the years. I've just the whole gamut of any activity that you can think of. We were just at Brushy Mountain Prison 2 weeks ago, and we heard voices and door slamming. And we were walking through. We caught this on tape too, because we're going back over our footage. And my best friend and my investigative partner Caleb, he lives with us, and he rents a room for us and lives with us. And so me and him, he was behind me with the camera, and I turned around. And I'm like, "Did you just say my name?" And we're walking through the prison.
Oh, I hate it when they say your name.
And he's like, "No, I cleared my throat." And I was like, "No, that wasn't it. Somebody said my name." And on the footage, it's actually on the camera audio. And I don't think it's my name, but it's somebody saying something. It's not one of us. And but I heard it at the moment, but I thought it said my name.
I wonder if it'll let me play this for you while I'm on here. I actually just went on a hunt at Ashmore Estates.
Yeah.
Last weekend or the weekend before. And at first, you couldn't really understand. It literally just sounded like something was screaming.
Yeah.
But then, I took it and kind of stretched it out and slowed it down. And we realized it was not screaming. Hey, that's my merge. That's not what I want. All right, let's see if this will play where you can hear it. Okay, could you hear it?
Yeah, I heard it, but I don't know what it says.
Okay. Well, like the first part, the guy's asking, so we had went down there, a group of us women, and some people believe the guy that's down there is not a fan of women. Other people think that it's not necessarily that it's the women, it's just that he's a grumpy fucking dude that just gets so just to test it, there was like 5 or 6 of us down there. He gave us a recording, hit record or the recorder, and then he left. And he was like, just ask questions, anything you want, whatever it is, how's your day, whatever. So all these girls were asking all these questions, and nothing was happening. Grant, nothing's happening. We don't hear anything. Then I asked a question, and then we just kept asking questions, but I only asked one question. So then he came back and got us, and we replayed the tape, and you can hear everyone asking questions. And it's nothing. Then I asked, and all I said was, do you have anything you want to say? And immediately, I mean, boom, you couldn't hear what it was saying, but it was saying something.
Yeah, it's a full sentence. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, well, this is different. So this is before this happened. And we couldn't make out what it was saying, but it was very clear that it responded. And then everybody else went back to asking questions, and it stopped responding. So we couldn't quite figure that out. But at the time, it was very clear on the recording because, again, it was just us women down there. And the response that I got was like a deep man's voice.
Yeah.
So then later, which you could I didn't clear up his piece as much as the response. And what he's asking is what did you think about the girls? And then right after he asks that, for starters, I'm the only person in the room with 3 syllables in their name. And it sounds like it says my name, and then it's like a pause, and then it says something else. And all I got out of it was like, help me, which is very concerning because that voice did not sound like a man.
Yeah.
My name part sounded like a man's voice, but the second part that sounded like it was saying like, help me, like whispering it, sounded like a woman. And then it was all crazy. You want me to play it again? I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's super crazy. And some of the stuff because like I said, we heard nothing. None of this, we heard nothing at all until we played it back.
Well, one of the things I experienced when we do public ghost hunts, because we put on public ghost hunts, and we do something called a roundtable EVP session. And what that is
like something what we did. Go ahead, continue, because I want to see if it's what we did.
So the way that I do it, the way that we do it is we'll get everybody in a round, in a circle, and put the recorder in the middle, and we decide on a question, and everybody asks the same question. And they will always settle on 1 or 2 people that they'll respond to. Mm-hmm. And I think, and one of the theories that's been thrown to me, I talked to Mike Rickstecker, if you don't know who he is, he's a big shadow person guy, and but one of his theories is that we're all on our own frequency, and when your frequency matches theirs, then that's when they'll respond to you because they can't hear the other people, and that's
Yeah.
when you'll see them as a full body apparition, to where some people will see them as a mist or a shadow figure, but it depends on your vibration. If you match the same level that they're on, then you're going to see them as a full body apparition, because you can have 10 investigators in a room and you can have something manifest and they will all see something differently.
So that is so fascinating. I didn't even think about that. I just kind of chalked it up. I was like, maybe, as with the fact that some people can hear them or see them or whatever, maybe they're the same way, and maybe they can only hear certain people. I never thought of it being a frequency thing. I just thought it was like an energy, which I guess is kind of the same thing. I guess I just didn't put it into scientific terms. But I think of it like an energy thing, because it almost seems like some people, I mean, bless their hearts, they try so hard, right? I mean, when I went on this hunt, there were people, and I mean, they were trying so hard to get something to happen, some communication, and they just couldn't, it just didn't happen. And like I said, those girls were asking like tons of questions, and they were all going around and around and around. And I just sat there and just let them ask questions. And then I literally piped up one question, and that was the only response we got, was my question.
And I think sometimes you got to take into account where you're at too in the history. And so it may not be even the wavelength of the vibration thing. It may be they respond to you because you remind them of somebody, or something like that. Or if you have like a woman from the 1800s, they're less likely to respond to a man than they will another woman. Or if you have a child, may respond to a woman more than a man, because the culture back then and the beliefs and religion and things like that, a lot of things to take into account, especially also where you're at. Because if you're in what was a woman's bedroom from the 1800s, they're not going to talk to you because they never had men in their bedroom unless it was their husband.
Me, I feel like it might be more of a, because back then they were programmed that if a man asks you a question, you fucking answer.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of looked at it, was like, like, I'm not going to listen to this biatch over here. But if it's a man, it's like, woman, you will answer me. And maybe, and I wonder too, if sometimes it is how you ask, I guess, more so than what you ask. Like our question when we got together was, what's your favorite food? And when we did that, whatever responded did not respond to me. We went around the circle, and there was a man, like a really tall, like big guy. He was kind of nerdy, but he was really big. And then there was like a little, like short, kind of more indigenous looking woman. I'm not really sure what her ethnicity was, but she was, oh my God, I loved her. She had the cutest little hat. But we did it once, and it responded after the man asked the question and before she asked. And we did it again. We tried to switch the question up to see if we could get a clearer answer, like a yes or a no versus a like what's your favorite food, because we couldn't understand what it said. We just knew it said something. I thought I heard spaghetti, but but we went through, and then we didn't get anything. But then we went back to the original question, and we all asked the same thing. And again, the only time it responded was after him and before her. I thought that was really interesting, because we were in, so where we were at, it was a poorhouse, and then it was a mental hospital or mental institution. And so I don't know, but we were in the cafeteria area. So it could have been anyone. It could have been a woman, a man, a kid. I mean, who knows? I mean, we have no idea.
Did y'all get any visuals that night on cameras or anything?
So I actually, when I went, I was horribly sick. I had actually been in bed for 3 days and hadn't left, and literally was peeling myself out of bed to go, just because I already paid for it. And so we stayed for like the group stuff, but once we could record and that kind of thing, I mean, it was a 2.5-hour drive.
Yeah, I've just found that, especially some of the locations that we go to over and over again and become familiar with, one night you'll have, when you go, it'll be all audible stuff. So it'll be all audio. And then the next time you go, it'll be all visual. You won't get anything on recorders, but you'll see shit and you'll catch shit on camera. It's interesting how it kind of flip flops. I don't know if it's just a difference in energy or what, but it's interesting. With the prison, We got kind of a mix of both, depending on where we're at. I haven't found anything on video yet, like any shadow figures or anything like that. But I have pictures of two different parts of the prison. And my cousin who was with us took a picture too that turned out really weird. So we got some visual stuff there, but it's mostly, audio stuff where we've left static cameras. And there's a jail cell door slamming, but in that part of the prison, they keep all the doors closed because tourists
well, I would
well,
and most of them were open.
Well, here they keep them closed because you get to do if you go during the day for the historic tour, it's a self-guided tour. So you get to walk around by yourself and there's signs everywhere.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, tourists were shitting in the toilets in the cells. So they keep all the cell doors closed. Now, if you're an investigator and you rent the place out, you get to go places where the general public doesn't, and there's actually cells open on the 3rd and 4th tiers that you can go into. But anyway, we got recordings of what sounds like the door slamming to cells, but we never shut any cell doors, and we weren't even in that part of the building. We were in a completely different block. God. And you can hear footsteps. Actually, one of the cameras, there's it sounds like somebody comes up and taps on the camera with like a fingernail. Like you can hear it on the plastic of the camera. Yeah, it's like a tap sound. So we caught some interesting stuff in there, but yeah, it was mostly audible stuff that we've caught so far.
Interesting. I wonder what causes that. So like when I went on my first ever ghost hunt, I was totally green. I wasn't even thinking about recording. I was just doing it for fun. I hadn't started the podcast. The podcast wasn't even a twinkle in my eye at the time.
Yeah.
And we went to the Ohio State Reformatory. It was crazy. So we did a seance in the church, the chapel area. And oh my gosh, this is where being an empath is not fun.
Yeah.
So we had this thing where he asked questions, he's recording and then he's, kind of guiding it. And he said, okay, we're going to go around the group. Everybody has to ask a question. He goes, it doesn't matter what kind of question, just any question you want. It could be what color are your socks. He's like, it does not matter. So we're going through and everybody's asking questions. I asked my question. I don't even remember what I asked, but I asked something and it's going through. We're about 2 or 3 rows back. And all of a sudden out of nowhere, I'm like, oh my gosh. And my friend's with me and I was like, I'm going to puke. And she's like, what? I'm like, oh my, I was like, we were literally scanning for something for me to vomit in because I was like, it's coming. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I was like, and like, I was hot and I was so sick and I don't know what was happening. And then this girl asked the question. And then behind us in the back of the room, there wasn't anything back there, but it sounded like a sheet of metal, like crashed on the floor, even though there's nothing there. And then as soon as that happened, they moved to the next question. I was totally fine.
Yeah.
But I was just like, man, I was like, I felt so awful. What is going on? I was like, what's happening to me? I was like, did I eat something? I was trying to figure anything, but it was boom, it was there and boom, it was gone. And we ended up seeing, there was a shadow man in the attic that scared the crap out of us. And it was so bizarre. Cause like I said, we were just walking and this horrible stuff happened in the attic. And we're just walking back and you can relate to this when you're like, oh God, like there's something behind us.
Yeah.
And she's like, and my friend she has zero. I mean, literally she just used me kind of as a radar while we were there.
Yeah.
And she just stopped. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, there's something. I was like, she's like, do we turn around? I'm like, yeah, we turn around. And she was like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, count of 3, we're going to turn around. She's like, okay. And I'm like, 1, 2, 3, turn. And we turn. And this motherfucker was so there's only one way in and one way out. There's one door. And this asshole is right next to the door. And you ever see those old silhouette signs with like a cowboy and he's got his like leg up and he's like leaning on with his hat down?
Yeah.
It was doing that. And it was just sitting by the door. And we both sat. I'm like, are you seeing this? And she's like, yeah, I was kind of hoping you wouldn't say that. She's like, no, I'm like, turn back around. And so we turned back around and I was like, and I don't know what it was like. I was like, okay. I was like, whatever you are, I was like, you've got to go. I was like, sorry, we're in your space. We know that we're in your space. 100% will leave. but you have to leave away from the door or we will not leave. I'm
Right.
like, you gotta go, and then we will gladly run out the door. And I'm like, okay, ready? And then we turn around and it was gone. So and we booked it. We don't run, but we were running a lot that day. And I mean, we had that. I don't think we ever really, I mean, other than the thing falling in the back, then, I mean, there was some weird stuff going on in the basement down by where the hole was, but it wasn't anything like super crazy. But then we went on the third floor, and I don't know if the prison you were in was the same, but their cells, they go around, and all you have between you and a 3-story drop is like a thin 2-line metal
Yeah.
railing.
Yeah.
And we went around the corner, and because we were just walking around, and we went around the corner, and I was like, whoop. And she was like, what? I'm like, there's something's down there. She was like, what? I'm like, something's down there. I'm like, should I go for it? She was like, yeah, do it. Because that's what I'm good at, right? I was like, okay, so I kind of scooted a little closer to the cell. And the first one, I got past the first one, but it was getting uncomfortable. I made it to the second. I'm almost past the second one. And I mean, it was bad. Like, I was like, ooh, like everything inside me was like, my hair sticking up. I had goosebumps. I had chills. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm at the limit. And about the time I was at the limit, I mean, it felt like I had 2 hands on me and was pushing me back the way I came. And I mean, pushing pretty fast. And again,
Yeah.
I'm scooting, and she was behind me, and I was like, because like I didn't want to fall over, and this thing's pushing me. So I was like, I have no option except to shove her out of the way. And we got all the way to the end, and it felt like it was going to just push me over the railing. Like, it didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
But as soon as I turned the corner, it was totally fine.
Hmm.
It's just what, and I ended up, we asked the guard when we left if he had any experiences, and we didn't mention anything.
Yeah.
We just what he had experienced, and he said that he was on the 3rd floor, and even like was explaining which cell he was in, which was the same area I was in. And he said that, and he's a big guy, and he said that he had to like hang on for dear life, like he had his arm wrapped around the railing, and he was struggling to not get pushed over the edge.
Wow.
And it was so weird, and I was like, that is exactly what just happened to me.
Yeah.
It was just really cool to have somebody else who had the same experience I did, but
Yeah.
a totally different time. Oh, I got to ask Miss. I keep getting off the track of investigatory stuff and more about I was just call it our superpower. Our superpower. So when you're just, I mean, mine happens all the time, so I'm assuming yours happens all the time too.
Yeah.
If you kind of feel like there's something, either you're hearing something or something's happening that you can't see, do you get like mental images that are almost like what this spirit as a person looks like? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It
can you what Robert looks like in your mind?
Yes, I do, and I've also seen him full on. And yeah, he's got red short hair, a short red like stubbly beard. Yeah, he's tall and skinny, and he has like a white linen shirt on with suspenders, and I don't know if they're blue or gray pants. So I don't know if he was Confederate Union.
That is so interesting. So I lived in a house. Now, granted, stuff that I generally feel as if I don't, I haven't so far. Please don't do it, guys. I'm okay with not doing it. Um, physically see them, but a lot of times it's almost like when something's happening, it's like my brain just, and it's people I've never seen before. It's just like my brain's just
Yeah.
like, who's this person? And this is what they look like. And I don't know where it comes from, but it always seems like it's related to certain types of activity. So it's
Yeah.
almost like I'm wondering if that's something they can do. Maybe they either can't show up in full form or don't want to show up in full form, but they could be like, hey, like this is what I look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the location. I also tend to be very guarded, especially when I'm investigating, as far as like the empath stuff goes. Just because I don't want anything to attach to me or try to jump me or anything.
Yeah.
So I tend to be a little more shut down unless I open it up. because I don't want to be too vulnerable, I guess is what I'm saying in that environment, especially if we're calling upon things to come
that are scary.
Yeah, and not necessarily scary, but just things that are, we're calling upon whoever dead is around, come chat with us. I don't want them to think they have an invitation to attach to me or follow me home or anything like that. So I'm already say that I'm like a lighthouse in the dark for spirits anyway, because they see us from far away and they can bug the shit out of you.
Hey, this one, they're like getting their posse together. They're like, hey, this one over here. This one knows we're here.
Yeah. And so guy. and the one thing that I do get a lot, and I think that when we investigate places, I think the spirits understand that I can notice them or see them, or not even necessarily see them, just know that they're there more so than somebody else. Even when I am kind of shut down and guarded, is I will be in a completely different part of the building, and we'll be like two separate groups, and then the other group will get my name, like on an EVP or a spirit box or something.
Crazy.
Yeah, and so it happens a lot. A place that we go to and we do 3 or 4 public ghost hunts a year there is a place called Thomas House, Red Bull Springs, Tennessee, and it's kind of on the Tennessee and Kentucky border. But it's a bed and breakfast, and so people come and we eat dinner.
Yeah,
we ghost hunt all night, and then they do breakfast the next morning, and it's a really big place. Yeah, it's a really big place, and you get your own room for the night, which is cool. And so we typically investigate all night, but there they know me because I've been there so many times. Yeah, they know who I am, and so they will. The same shit happens, especially this little girl named Sarah.
That's so weird. I'm pretty sure there was a Sarah at the place I just went to.
Yeah, and there's historical documentation that this Sarah actually died there.
Yeah, she actually was there. She lived in the poorhouse with her mom.
Well, sometimes you can't back that up, you know. But she was actually a niece of the family that built the Thomas House back in the early 1927 it was built. She will say my name on EVPs, and I'll have to come. They'll come and get me from my group that I'm leading.
You're being
and bring me over because she wants to talk to me for whatever reason. Yeah, and so it's crazy.
Funny. Instead of you summoning the ghost is summoning you.
Yeah. Yes, it's like awesome. That. He's the one I want to talk to. Bring him over here.
Yeah, like that guy. Yeah, it's just to me, I just think it's so crazy because like you said, you never know. So is there anything that you in particular do like prior or post investigations? Like when I go to the hunts, like I said, I'm pretty new at it, but I always put sage I always have sage in my car. And we sage the car, we sage us, and we're like, whatever, was here when I got here, you stay here. You're not allowed to come with us. You can't get in this. You can't come home with me. You got to stay here. And so we basically talk to it and say like, hell no, you're staying here. Is there anything in particular that you do? Because I know everybody kind of seems to have their own little ritual type thing maybe that they do.
I kind of mentally, the only thing I do, I guess, is mentally like protect myself with the empath stuff, because what I found in the past, and one of the reasons I do that too, is what I found in the past is if I go in there full open, like not open enough for anything to jump me or anything like that, but if I go in there, they will take my energy. And it takes me, like the paranormal hangover is real, but it will take me even longer to recover, or I'll get sick afterwards. Yeah. And so, I have to stop them from just siphoning it off from me to use. And so that's why I get so I have to like mentally put myself in that state of, okay, I'm guarded, and put this guard stuff up. One of the things, I'm a big rock hound, and I don't even know if crystals do anything.
I'm like, are we talking like rock, or are we talking like
well, both. I love rock music, but I love crystals and things like that. And but I always have a crystal in my pocket, and then I make my own black salt, and I have a vial that I wear around my neck. So I figured I don't necessarily believe in it, but it doesn't hurt. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. Right? Yeah. So
no one I think really believes it, but they always do it.
Well, and like I'm not a big religious person, but one of my friends gave me this ring right here, which has the Lord's Prayer on it, and I don't really believe in religion.
I used to have a had it, but I don't know what happened to it.
But one of my friends said, "Hey, will you wear this?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll wear it." If it helps, it helps.
Yeah, I just wonder because I'm like, I wonder if it. But I'm so glad you said that, because I've kind of noticed. I was like, I don't know what it is. I was like, but it just seems like when things start getting crazy and stuff like that, I just feel wore down, even if I don't do anything. Even sitting in like the room when we're doing stuff like at the hunts and everything, I'm like, man, I was like, I just feel wiped.
Yeah.
And then like the next day I'm like, oh my gosh. And I
Yeah.
never understood it. I just was like, well, that's weird. I thought just maybe I got sick because I was out.
Well, I think also living people do that too. I think you
Oh yeah.
have psychic vampires that don't even know they're psychic vampires,
Uh-huh.
and they just kind of suck the energy out of you, suck the life out of you. I've kind of and I feel like a dick for this, but I've kind of ditched some people as their friend without, because if I explain this to them, they think I'm a fucking asshole and I'm crazy.
I
And I didn't realize that until I talked to, because I've only really been super open about the empath stuff and the mediumship or whatever the hell you want to call it for the past like 4 or 5 years, especially since doing the podcast for 3 years.
yeah,
I've gotten more and more open on my show, and I had Michelle Belanger on my show.
I know that. Why do I know that name?
She's the tall redhead psychic. Well, I don't call her psychic. She's a medium. She was on Paranormal Lockdown. She was on Paranormal State.
Okay.
She is
I
amazing.
know that name.
Yeah, I had her on the show and she's amazing. But we were talking about psychic vampires and energy vampires. And that's when I realized, because I was asking her, and that's when I realized, oh, you gotta get rid of those people. Because she was saying
Yeah.
some of those people don't even know they're doing it. And so you kind of got to protect yourself, but at the same time, they'll still drain you because they're so good at it. But they don't even know they're doing it. They're
So
not consciously doing it, but they're
what I,
siphoning energy off of everybody.
yeah, what I've noticed a lot of times is those people that I have put in that situation that I've noticed, they all kind of seem to have one thing in common. And I noticed it was almost like they never wanted to be alone.
Yeah.
They always have to be around people.
Yeah.
And if they're not around people, they're really like, low energy and depressed.
Yeah.
It's like they just don't have it. But when they're around other people, it's like all of a sudden it's like, they're I guess feeding off of it. They just don't realize
Yeah.
they're doing it. They just probably think, oh, I'm a social person. I need to be around people and all that. They don't realize
Yeah.
that they're actually like draining people. I'm not gonna lie, if I'm really tired, I sometimes siphon people.
But one of the other common denominators I found with those type of people is they tend to play the victim a lot more.
Dude, you're on
Yeah.
it, man. You're making so many light bulbs like click on. It is insane. Oh, this is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, for
So,
whatever reason they blame the world, the world owes them something, they play the victim.
so I gotta ask, like, when you do your investigations, do you use a lot of tech when you do it?
No, I hate
Or
tech.
okay. So I've heard a lot of good things about cat balls. That sounds really funny when I say that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at the hunt I just went to, there was a woman who put multiple in like a baggie, and so she would ask it to like set certain ones off, or all of them, or one of them, or two, or whatever. And she called it her ball sack. Like, it's awesome. But yeah, like there's some. I mean, I hadn't been exposed to a lot of the technology behind investigations until like last weekend.
Yeah.
And they had some really cool stuff like the music box. There were some light strings where, if something passed through, it would turn the lights a different color.
Yeah.
Uh, and they could go up and down the line or whatever shape you put the lights in. And there was some box. I don't know. I talked to the lady about it last week and she brought it. I'll have to go back and listen to it to figure out what that box is called. But it's like a little box with a little antenna, and you can like
REM pod.
yeah that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Heard a lot of good things about that one and the cat balls, but
So let me explain, because I'm very scientific minded, even though I
okay.
have all this crazy shit that I can't explain happening, right? When it comes to equipment, I'm not big on equipment because I don't believe in it. And the
Okay.
reason I don't believe in it, because I will tell you, REM pods, not that they don't, for one, you can't prove that you're connected to anything paranormal, but also they're very fallible as being technology, right?
Yeah.
So, like with REM pods especially, I have an issue with, because, and you can try this on your own, any of your audience, my audience, I tell everybody this, try it on your own. Make up your own mind about REM pods. I'm just telling you my opinion and why I think they don't work. You can key up a walkie-talkie and never say a word into it, and the REM pod will go off every single time.
Yeah. So they talked about that when we.
Yeah. So if you have truckers out there, my dad used to be a trucker and had a really powerful CB radio. If you have a really powerful CB radio, some of those CB radios will go for hundreds of miles.
Yeah.
So if you're anywhere within an interstate or a major highway, why couldn't that set it off? Why couldn't your cell phone set it off? Right? Even in airplane mode. You know what I'm saying? Like
total sense. Yeah.
I mean, a cordless phone. If the business that you're in, the house that you're in, has a cordless phone, which a lot of them do,
Oh,
they have
my
landlines for their
goodness.
business.
There was no electricity. It was
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
freaking nowhere. We were nowhere
yeah,
near anything. But we still had our cell phones and everything.
yeah,
Uh, but okay, so technology, not so much. What about have you used any of the apps that supposedly Necrophonic or Ghost SLS or whatever that one is? A
yeah,
Ghost is that what it is? Ghost Tube? I think that's what I have it on my phone because we did it once.
yeah. I played around with Necrophonic. That app seems to it's programmed to take your own noises when you're talking and spit them back out at you.
Okay.
So it's programmed to basically spit words at you that you've already said. And I think most of those, the problem that I have in most of the apps is you don't know the intention of the developer. And
Yeah.
so a lot of them, I think, are programmed for
To make
one, they all say
encourage.
entertainment purposes only,
Yeah.
but they can definitely program them, especially with the AI stuff that we have now.
Yeah.
You can definitely program them to listen to what you're talking about or even have your GPS location.
Mhm.
Because if you look the permissions you have to give that app to put on your phone, it has access to your phone calls, to your call records, to your photos, to your
Yep.
GPS, to everything. So, well, how do they know that this was an insane asylum? How's it saying asylum? Well, because
Google.
it's using your fucking GPS
Yeah.
and knows that
Google.
you're at what was an insane asylum. Like, and
Yeah.
it'll spit out words that are pertinent
Related.
to that, yeah,
Mhm.
related to that location. Or if it's, they programmed it smart enough, it'll search Google, like you said, on that location. And if say a video pops up on YouTube that says, we found demons at Ashmore, and you're at Ashmore, what's it going to say? It's going to pop up demons, and it's going to go
Yeah.
that route. So I think my big thing with all equipment is that when you put the human element in it is when you have the issue. Like an SLS camera with the stick figures, that was never made to do any kind of investigating anything. You can put it on a lamp and it'll put a stick
Yeah,
figure on
put
a
the link.
lamp.
Sorry.
So you can't, I've never seen anything to tell me that actually works for a spirit.
Yeah.
With like EMF meters. Yeah, we use them, and I do use them because you need to know if you have high EMF, because it can cause hallucinations.
Yeah.
But that's what they were brought into the field for, is to rule out high EMF fields. They were never brought in to detect ghost. And that's the misnomer that TV is brought in with a lot of this equipment that I talk about all the time when I do interviews or on my own show. But that's what TV is brought in, that people, and that's what we try to do with our public ghost hunts, to educate people. Now, you can use whatever equipment you want. You can believe in it or not. I'm not going to tell you to believe in, but I'm going to tell you the technical specs behind it and why it doesn't work, the
Yeah.
reasons why it doesn't work. And we have all the equipment. We have every piece of it.
Yeah.
We have Ovulus. We have all that. And when people come and investigate with us, they get to play with all of it. You can take the SLS camera, you can take REM pods, whatever you want to do. The cat balls I have had success with. And I'll tell you, the last time that I saw one of those light up, we were in a museum and I set it on a glass counter and it rolled around for a second until it got settled and it didn't move. And I'm standing there, we're on a concrete floor, so there's nothing moving in this cabinet. And people are looking at me because I'm the investigator. We sold tickets, and they're investigating too. But you know what I'm saying? They're listening to me tell stories about this
Like
area.
kind of like
Yeah, the introduction to this
leader,
area.
but like a guide.
Yeah, yeah. And they tell me to turn around, and I turn around and look, and the fucking cat ball is going around in circles. But I didn't touch the cabinet. I'm about 2 foot away from this glass cabinet.
Oh wow.
And the floor is concrete, so there's no way. And the cat ball had already settled, right? When I set it down, it rolled around a little bit and it settled, but it's rolling around, flashing. But it's rolling around this like 2-inch, 3-inch circle, and then it settles back down again. Yeah.
Cool.
There's another place called Rosemont in Gallatin, Tennessee, that we've investigated there. It was
heard of that one. I think I did some research on it.
Yeah, Ghost Hunters was just there this past season. But it was a thoroughbred racehorse farm. And when the Civil War came through Gallatin, they were occupied by the Union. Well, they stole most of their horses for cavalry because they were really fast racehorses.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Well, they were able to hide 4 or 5 of the horses, their breeding horses, in the basement. Well, the basement is just dirt and brick. So that was actually some of the house enslaved people lived in the basement. And so it's bricks in the ground. So it's solid. And one of the cool things is you can take one of those cat toys and set it down, and it won't go off until you mention horses. And then it'll go off. We even caught a horse EVP there, actually. Inside the office where they used to sell them, we caught a horse whinny. Yeah, it's really loud and clear.
Headless horseman.
Yeah, yeah. But the walls are 2-foot thick brick, and this is in the middle of a modern town, so there's no horses within 10 miles of this place. Yeah, but they actually produced the grandfather secretariat, came from their horse line. So,
damn.
Yeah, the Guild family was very well known for their racehorses.
I think I kind of have the same viewpoint that you have with a lot of the equipment. Just because I'm like, I don't know, what is it, telling me? What is it this? What is it that? I'm sitting there and they're all trying everything. They're asking questions. They got this necrophone thingy out.
Yeah.
They've got the cat balls out. They've got all of it's on this floor. And I'm just sitting in the middle and I'm like, there's nothing here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I can tell you there is nothing here. And nothing went off at all, except one time something made a noise where my mom was. I was like down the hall and she was down in this one room. And to the point where one girl screamed bloody murder and she came hauling sat there. I mean, it scared me just because she started screaming.
Yeah.
Little cat ball things were going off. And then like right whenever it started going off, this chair, so think 1990s, 2000s school cafeteria or elementary school chair with those metal, and when you scoot it makes that sound on the floor because the floor we were in with concrete. And the chair that the cat balls were in scooted and scared the shit out of everybody that was in there. She took off running, and my mom, who was not a believer necessarily, she just went because I wanted somebody to go with me, and she was even like, she's like, whoa, like that freaked her out, and she doesn't normally get spooked by that kind of stuff. But like everybody was in there, and it's not like it was just like one person. I mean, there were 5 people in this room, and no one was anywhere near the chair, to the point where everybody freaked out and ran. And then they went back to be like, okay, what was that? What is this room that could make that noise? What could have happened? Like they were trying to figure out, did something fall? Whatever.
Yeah.
And they found that chair and they scooted. They're like, that's it. This chair scooted like a few inches and scared the holy bejeebies out of everybody. It was just so funny to watch this little girl come flying out of the room screaming. I was like, oh my gosh, that's too funny. I was like, now granted, I was like, I don't like it when they sneak up on me. But usually I usually know if they're there. It's no big deal. But this poor guy, this one guy, he was trying so hard. He had his little EMF reader and he was by the music box. There was twin sisters that had lived there and had passed away. It was not very pleasant. But there's supposedly a lot of activity like by their room. And that's where I was on there with him. And he was like asking them specifically questions, saying their name, trying to get their attention and all this stuff. And just this poor man. And it was dead silent. I'm talking nothing. And I was sitting there and I'm like, there is like, sorry, buddy. Yeah. I'm like, there's nothing over here. And he's like, well, maybe they're just, and I'm like, honey, I'm like, there's nothing over here. And nothing ever did go off. Like, I mean, I was right. But I mean, I just, it is kind of upsetting, I think, for some people that they want it so bad. When they use the equipment, well, with or without the equipment, they want it so bad that any little thing, even if it's just a speck of dust flies in front of it, they're like, oh, and it's like a big ordeal. Where like mine, a lot of them, I catch a lot while I'm recording, and I'll listen. I'm like, whoa, like that could be something. But what I do is I have a sound person that's what they do. I send my clips. I'm like, hey, can you analyze this to make sure that it's saying what I think it's saying? and they'll break it down. I mean, they put it in their software and they're doing all this stuff just to like pull stuff out, make sure it's not my voice and all of that. And they're like, that's what it says. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, like that's what I thought.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, especially when we go through footage and recordings from every investigation we do, we throw so much more shit out than we would ever put out as evidence. Because if we, I call myself a skeptical believer because I've had so much shit happen to me in my life that's fucking crazy.
Sick.
Yeah, but you have to have a healthy dose of skepticism too, or you become like that. And you see people like that all the time in these Facebook groups and things.
Yeah.
That they want so much to have an interaction with a loved one or something like that.
Yep.
They're grasping at straws and pictures and things. And it's like when you try to explain it to them, then you're a fucking villain. You're an asshole because you just shot down their shit, you know? And it's like I live in the South. And one of the things in the South is if a cardinal comes and lands on your, fucking shit, that's your
one coming to visit you.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck ever? Like, okay, if a Cardinals didn't live around here and I didn't see them every day, that might be something special. How about a fucking pelican land on my front porch, and then that'll be a sign, okay? Because pelicans, they're from the fucking ocean. Send me a bird that doesn't live around here, and then I might think it's something special.
And mine
anyway,
actually, well, I don't know if you could see it. Hold on. I don't know if I can turn it enough. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
In my dragonfly.
Yeah.
So when I lost my twins, I was going through all of this stuff. And before I found out I was pregnant, all of a sudden there were these dragonflies and they would like swarm my car, like my door, they'd fly. And I'm like, what is happening? I was like, I've never seen a freaking dragonfly out here in my life. I was like, what the hell's happening?
Yeah.
And then I found out I was pregnant, that I went through all those shenanigans. And when all of it was said and done and they were officially gone, I never saw another dragonfly unless it's usually around their birthday. I get them on my car.
I'm not saying that that's not a sign.
But it's weird to me because I'm just like, it's something I've never seen happen. And stuff like that. So I'm like, that's really strange.
Look, I'm just telling my loved ones, pick something less common than a fucking cardinal. That's all I'm asking. Like, I don't know. Have a praying mantis come up and smack me in the face or something. Like, like something like that, But I believe there. But I'm not shitting on anybody's experience or anything like that. I never want to do that because I wasn't there. I can't tell you what you had. Experience was wrong, and I don't want people to tell me I'm wrong for what I've experienced. But I need a little more evidence than that. Is all I'm saying is that then a cardinal landing on my fucking front deck. They're everywhere. Yeah. But
I'd be surprised if there weren't any.
Yeah. But so we throw out so much more shit. And also I am very reticent to just jump to this is a ghost, this is paranormal, this is proof of the afterlife. I have a crazy ass picture that I'll have to send to you of a green face at one of the jails Old Stone Jail in Franklin, Kentucky. I can't explain it. It's not a person that was there. There was nobody there. There are people in front of me, but this face, there's no explanation. I've showed it to lots of people and nobody can explain it. Also, like the pictures we got at Brushy Mountain Prison this a couple weekends ago, I've sent them to 2 different photographers who are very experienced photographers to make sure they weren't motion blur or something to do with the camera, and neither one of them can explain these pictures. And so, I try to do my due diligence, and I think I've seen a shift online too, to where I think more people are calling people out and being like, no, there's nothing in that photo, especially in the past few years. And I think we need that. I think people need realism,
Like my thing is, sometimes I'll take something, I'll send it out there. I'm like, hey, what do you guys think? Do you see anything? Do you hear anything? Is it just me? Just because, like I said, I don't want to just assume.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm really big. I have a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions. Just because I feel like I need as much knowledge as I can get or as much information. And like people sometimes they don't like it whenever I start questioning them. But I'm like, well, what about this? And what about that? What about, were you this? Were you that? And people are like, oh my gosh, like you're trying. I'm like, no, I'm like, I believe this stuff. I was like, I'm just because I want to make sure that your information that you have out there is in fact valid.
Right.
I want to find this picture. I went on a ghost hunt. We went on a ghost walk, a little tour. God, back when I got married. Wonder if I posted it on social media. And everybody took a picture of the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we were all taking pictures at the same time, the same thing. And my camera's the only one that picked something up. And there's like a silhouette of a woman on the tombstone, like far away. And she looks kind of like Mary Poppins is what it reminds me of. Has the little like top hat and like the corseted dress kind of thing. It's totally crazy to me to be like, that was it. And I didn't say anything at first because I was like, is that real? Like, did I?
Right.
Did I? Is that what I think? And I'm looking, I'm zooming in, I'm zooming out. I'm like, is it the light? Is there a shadow? Is there anything up there? I'm looking and I'm like, well, there's nothing. Like when I'm just looking, I'm like, there's nothing up there. And what's weird is when I was looking and I was taking the pictures, I didn't see anything.
Right.
And looked at my photos and I was like, and then I like asked people next to me, I'm like, hey, can I see your photos of the tombstone? And they're like, oh yeah, sure, here. And I was like, looking, I'm like, see your picture of the tombstone?
Yeah.
And so we just kept going through it. And I was like, mine looks kind of funny. And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, do you see this? And everybody was like, what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, it's so weird. But I have it on
Well,
here.
that's like the pictures I'm talking about from the prison. That's why we always take 3 pictures in a row. And like the first 2 pictures, there's nothing. And the third picture, there's something, Oh, wow.
And when I took the picture, that was not there.
Yeah.
It was totally weird. Wrapping it up. All right, everybody. Thank you again, Eric, for joining me today for our chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Everybody else, go find him. It's Unseen Paranormal Podcast. I don't know where all you're at. If you want to go over that, you can. I know you're on Apple because that's where I found you. Yeah,
I'm everywhere. iHeartRadio, Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Spreaker is my host. So I'm on Spreaker, which is owned by iHeartRadio. Yeah, Listen Notes. Yeah, every podcatcher, every music app you can think of, I am there. Amazon Music, and on social media, you can find the Unseen Paranormal Podcast on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, and on Facebook. We also have a Facebook group that has almost 1,000 people that we put memes and things in and talk about the show. And then the new podcast is Strange Chapters. It's available everywhere. Oh, also on YouTube. I put my show up on YouTube. Perfect. The Unseen Paranormal is just the audio. But Strange Chapters, some of those episodes have a video component to them that I do. So you can go subscribe there. And we got on Facebook, I think I'm at almost 600 followers on Facebook for Strange Chapters, which is pretty good for 9 episodes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, like you said, guys, go check him out, find him. Don't forget, follow, subscribe, like the whole shenanigans. But again, I might have to thank you again so much for taking the time to chat with me and reminisce and let me pick your brains. So until next time, everybody, see ya. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you listen. This is more beneficial than you may know and will help others locate the podcast. Don't forget to check out my Patreon page as well. We currently have 2 tiers. The Snallygaster tier that'll get you unedited bonus audio, a sticker, a shout out on the podcast, and access to the private Discord server. The second tier is the Phantom tier, and that'll get you all of the benefits of the Snallygaster tier, plus access to live streams and Q&A sessions, and is the only place you can access all video footage from regular episodes as well as the Patreon exclusive episodes. You can subscribe today at patreon.com/cryptids, creeps, and conspiracy. Don't forget to head over to the TeePublic website and take a look at a variety of merch options that are available. You can also find and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, TikTok, X, and YouTube. All of these links can be found in the description of this episode under the Linktree hyperlink. Until next time, my friends, dare to believe.
Good evening. You're listening to the Truth Tank podcast trailer. Today, the truth has become harder to discern. Fake news, censoring of facts, media censorship, ideology over logic. The truth has become subjective. That old saying, there are 2 kinds of truth, rings true today. what is fact and what is fiction. You can take the blue pill and go about your day, or you can take the red pill and take a deep dive into the world of conspiracies, history's mysteries, the hidden and the forbidden past, current and global events, UFOs, aliens and the UAV phenomenon, the world of the paranormal and high strangeness, as well as the ongoing war on pop culture and society, with the occasional movie review thrown in for good measure. If this has piqued your curiosity and you want to find out how all this ties together, join me, the Tank, every month for a deep and detailed dive into the hidden and murky world of the truth. You can find and follow the Truth Tank on Facebook and Instagram. You can listen and download the episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcasts from. May the truth be with you. Tinfoil hat not included.